In this example, we are going to find the solution to the difference equation x sub n plus 1 equals 0.75 xn plus 80 with the initial condition x0 equals 80. All right, so what we're going to do is look at this difference equation in two parts. So our first part, which we'll call the homogeneous part, is the part that has the xn plus 1 and the xn in it. So basically we're just ignoring this plus 80 over here, just temporarily. We're going to come back to that. Okay, so this is the non-homogeneous part, and the solution to just that part is going to be x sub n equals, we saw in our previous example that the kind of coefficient of the x sub n here becomes the base of the exponential function that is kind of the corresponding solution. So we're going to do that same thing here. So it's going to be 0.75 to the power n. And in our last example, we used the 80 kind of as the coefficient here. We are not going to do that this time. The solution is going to have a different number as the coefficient here, which we're going to call capital A for now. So we have x sub n equals capital A times 0.75 to the power n, where again that 0.75 comes from the difference equation right there. All right, so that's kind of our first piece. I'll leave it underlined because we are going to need that later. So now we move on to the second part, which is the non-homogeneous part of the difference equation, which is, I guess I'll change colors, right here, the plus 80. All right. So for the non-homogeneous part of the solution, since 80 right here is a constant, our non-homogeneous part of the solution is also going to be a constant. So we're just going to call that constant c right now. So we have x sub n is equal to c. All right, we need to find out what that value of c is, and when we do that, it's going to look a lot like it does when we're solving for an equilibrium level. So since c is a constant, it doesn't depend on n, we can say that x sub n is equal to c, but also that x sub n plus 1 is equal to c. So what are we going to do with that? We're going to go back to the original difference equation, which I'll go ahead and copy down here. X sub n plus 1 equals 0.75 xn plus 80. All right, now we're going to take xn plus 1 equals c, plug it in right here. X sub n equals c, plug it in right here. So we have c equals 0.75 c plus 80. So again, when I said it looks like finding the equilibrium level, hopefully you see that now. Again, we can put this 1 in front of the c on the left-hand side if that makes it easier for you. We need to get our like terms together, so we subtract 0.75 c from each side to get 0.25 c is equal to 80, and then of course we divide by 0.25 to get c by itself, and that gives us c is equal to 320. All right, but remember back up here that our x sub n is equal to c, and c is equal to 320, so that tells us that, whoops, this part of the solution has the form x sub n equals 320. So I'll go ahead and underline that as well. All right, so now we have the solution to the homogeneous part, which is here, x sub n equals capital A times 0.75 to the n, and the solution to the non-homogeneous part down here, x sub n equals 320. Now for our final solution, we're going to add those two pieces together. So we start with the homogeneous part of the solution, and then add on the non-homogeneous part of the solution. All right, so now we have x sub n equals capital A times 0.75 to the power n plus 320. All right, that is not the solution yet because we need to know what is this value of a right here. So how do we find that? Going back to our original problem, we see that we were given x sub 0 is equal to 80. We haven't used that at all. Now is the time we're going to use it. Okay, so remember, this is basically saying that when n is equal to 0, x sub 0, or x sub n, is equal to 80. So we're going to take that n is equal to 0 and plug it in for this n right here. And then the 80, we'll plug it in for xn on the left-hand side. Right. So maybe I'll just write that as a step. Plug in n equals 0 and x sub 0 equals 80. So we have x sub 0 on the left, a times 0.75 to the power 0 plus 320. All right, but then we just said x sub 0 on the left-hand side is equal to 80. Oops. All right. You can grab your calculator if you want. 0.75 to the power 0 is going to be equal to 1. And of course, a times 1 is just a. So we have a plus 320 on the right-hand side is equal to 80 on the left-hand side. To get a by itself, we subtract 320 from each side. And then we get a is equal to 80 minus 320 should be negative 240. All right. So there's the value of a. We're almost done. We are going to come back up to the kind of partial solution that we wrote over here and simply replace this a with negative 240. So that gives us our solution is x sub n is equal to our a, negative 240, times 0.75 to the power n plus 320. So this is what we call the solution to the difference equation.